The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I'm your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the place in American and world history, but particularly American history, where the right wing of this country, along with some consideration being made by people like Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, they are making the cold calculation as to how many people they can sacrifice on the altar of American capitalism. They're trying to decide how many people let me start that sentence again, if you would. They're trying to decide how many lives are worth the economy. This is no exaggeration. This is no hyperbole. I will play several clips, but I'm sure you have been tuned in. Donald Trump said in a tweet yesterday that I covered on yesterday's episode that the cure can't be worse than the disease. And now we have Fox News commentators over and over and over again pushing, not just Fox News, Governor Cuomo, the hero of the liberal movement, the hero of the person that people are writing fan fiction about, imagining that he is the president of the United States. He's considering the same thing. They put out a graphic yesterday showing on one side a scale, basically a scale. And on one side, it was human lives and the other side was the economy, as if this is something we have to consider, as if this is something that's a hard choice. I'm sorry, but this economy can go to hell. Why? Because it is all a construct of our own creation in the first place. The economy is about participation. And right now, participation means that we could die. And Republicans, along with a handful of Democrats, a small portion, they understand. The Democrats understand that we're going to give them hell. But don't let Andrew Cuomo off. He floated this idea right along with Donald Trump. And now Fox News, they are pounding it every single hour. Now conservatives are running around the country talking about how they're willing to die to make sure that we don't go into recession. The lieutenant governor of Texas said that, we should all get back into the workforce and let the people who are 70 and older, let us take care of ourselves. They would rather die. This is literally quotes that are going on Twitter right now and on Fox News. They're saying that they would rather die than to see us go into Great Depression. Well, guess what, dummy? If 1 million people die because you pushed everyone back to work, we're going into a Great Depression anyway. This economy does not work without our participation. We are more than happy. Do you think? Here's the thing. Let's just cut to it. Let me. The only way we're going to survive this is if the federal government issues at minimum $2,000 a month per individual and freezes rents, a moratorium on evictions, a moratorium on foreclosures, as well as a moratorium on shutoffs. Shutoffs meaning disconnects, utility shutoffs. That's the only way we survive this. All the way through this crisis, what is that going to do? That is going to flood the money with the economy with money, which clearly it needs if they're dumping $1 trillion a day into the stock markets. Clearly it's an issue of money in the economy. Now, of course, there's inflationary forces, but we'll have to worry about that when we cross that bridge. But what it's going to allow is for people to pay their bills and stay home. This isn't about here's what we're working against. This isn't about making sure people's bills get paid, because I don't really give a damn about bills. At this point, if someone comes to try to repossess your car, you ought to sneeze on them. All right. If your landlord tries to evict you, let them know that everybody in the house has coronavirus. I don't care if it's not true. And I know people don't like, particularly me as being a spiritual person. I don't like speaking things that aren't necessarily true because they might become true, that kind of thing. But whatever. If the landlord tries to put you out, tell them everybody in the house has coronavirus and come get them. Come get us. Come remove us, sheriff officer. That's how I feel about bills right now. Because bills are nothing more than a tool of this system to keep us running like mice on hamster wheels. to keep us forever participating in the system. And the problem is that while most of us really want to participate, because that's where we get our enjoyment, that's where we get our pleasure, that's where we meet our friends, that's where we meet our busset babies, that's where we meet all of the, yeah, I really did take it back to the 2000s. That's all of our enjoyment comes from interacting with one another in this system. So we want to participate, but participation right now literally means death. So we cannot participate. We cannot consume at regular levels. The way this entire economy is structured is going to change. Right now, there's a huge opportunity for someone in the grocery business to find a way to protect their employees. Really protect their employees as well as their food supply chain, as well as delivery services. Now, I'm a little bit all over the place, but here's why I bring that up. Because the economy is getting ready to evolve, whether we want it to or not. And if these companies do not evolve with it, then they are going to die. If they cannot evolve and find some way to have a significant portion of their services offered online and payable through digital means or deliverable with some type of certification that it has been, it's like safe, it's sanitized. There's, the supply chain, like we need a COVID-19 certification. And see what's happening instead, these companies are so moronic and so self-centered on profit that they don't realize, like Amazon, they're hiring so many more people right now, but they're not taking the steps to make sure that their employees are safe. So what's going to happen? Their employees are going to die. Not all of them, but some of them are going to die, which means eventually they're going to walk out like the Purdue factory here in Georgia. 50 employees walked out yesterday because no one was taking their health into consideration. And so if companies would step up and do everything humanly possible to make sure that sick people can go home and not have to come to work because we don't need it spread, make sure that they have food and make sure that they have sick time. And then everyone else that is there take extraordinary measures of decontamination to make sure that none of your employees get sick. Like they're going to have to be ways of some people working in this system without exposing them to imminent danger. That's the difference. We have the president of the United States talking about everyone just go back to work. And what I'm saying is if we secure several industries, actually, just about any industry that can adapt, they're going to have to, because whether we want to stay home or not, when we see what this coronavirus is getting ready to do to this country over the next few weeks, there's not an order from the federal government that will be obeyed if it is saying that we need to go back out in public and participate in the system. In other words, what coronavirus is getting ready to do to us, they would have to bring the military around and demand that we leave our houses. And even then, we're not going to leave. Instead, these companies can adapt. Not all of them. Some of them are never coming back. I get it. I know this is going to be disruptive. Yes, I know unemployment rate is going to be obscene, but we can survive it if we institute a universal basic income and people begin consuming, not only survive the economy, God damn, people can live. People can live. There's so many people who don't even know that they're sick yet because they've been going to work nonstop because their employers have been so selfish that they would not give them the time off. And I'm telling you this, there's a revolutionary spirit that's going to erupt in this country that I don't know that. And on top of the fact that the economy is tanking, on top of the fact that there's a plague outside of our doorsteps. And then we have officials. I mean, the officials. The leaders of this country talking about, we're going to get back to work as soon as we can. No, we are not. You can get back to work as soon as you can. We are not going back to work until we can have some guarantee that we are not going to get sick and die. And the only real guarantee that we're going to get with that is a successful, effective vaccination. All right. So anyway, the coronavirus has picked winners and losers in terms of this economy. And right now, what the wealthy and the uber elite are saying is that their companies are the ones that are dying and that are starving. Here's another thing. It's not just all the uber elite. Like the digital companies are going to be fine. The digital companies that have some type of delivery mechanism are going to be fine. Instacart is hiring 300,000 new independent contractors. Now, here's the thing. Instacart is not doing, I have not seen anything that suggests that Instacart is doing something to actually help keep their employees or their independent contractors safe. And this is the part that is going to drive people to rage and fury. If you continuously put them in harm's way for your bottom line. I have reports of people who are being ordered to go back to work while their management and the mid-management and their owners are not. They're working remotely, but they're sending their employees back to the office. See, that is a type of I just want everyone to really understand that these are new times. We've never seen this before. We're not quite sure how this is going to play out. This is not business as usual. If you think the smart thing to do is to put your employees who outnumber you in harm's way, don't think for 1 second that it's just going to happen like it would happen in any other time, because what you have done is consigned some people to death. And when their family members who are living understand that it was your decision, it was your greed, it was your indifference to your employees' safety. I don't care if you're Amazon, Jeff Bezos. I don't care if you're Instacart. I don't care if you're Publix groceries. If you have done nothing to protect your employees and you have insisted that they come to work and then the result is they start dying. Yeah. I don't know what you expect. I don't think it's I don't think it's irrational or alarmist, or it's just a natural cause and effect. You have been irresponsible stewards over the lives of the people who you employ. You have demanded that they show up to work. You have demanded the federal government the same. It goes doubly for the federal government. You're going to try to demand people have to go back to work? Do you not understand the risk that you are putting this country in? Not just the lives of the people, but your decisions are undermining the very institution of our nation, because our nation will not sit idly by and watch some people in Washington, D.C. tell us to go out there and work for their profits, even if that means our death. Read between every line you need to read between. The facts remain the same. You cannot expect this to play out like in different times when there is a plague knocking on our doorsteps.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
And here we go. Very special welcome to all of our newest patrons. Augusta, thank you for becoming a patron. Brian Mock, thank you for becoming a patron. Augustus Lemonde, thank you for becoming a patron. Alexander Bassett, thank you for becoming a patron. Dennis J. Daughtery, thank you for becoming a patron. Melissa Bowen, David Russell, Ted Martin, Peter Ahrens, Viral Patel, Thomas Montgomery, Marquita Robinson, and Carrie Shaw. Thank you all so much for becoming a patron. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content and none of the advertisements like you're going to hear right about here. Okay. Yeah, serious times. We are living in very, very, very serious times. And because of that, I have learned the value of just laughing at it, laughing at the absurdity of it all. Because, I mean, I don't think any of us ever imagined we would be living at a time where the world, if we survive this, which we will. Come to the bonus show, so you come to the patrons episode, so I can talk to you about the real stuff, about why it is that I feel both confident that we're going to survive and confident that, like, man, this thing has our number. It's the duality. Like I'm split between two different opinions. Like I believe in human ingenuity. Somebody somewhere is working on something that's going to help us out of this disaster faster than 18 months. And even if it requires us staying inside for 18 months, I think we have it in us as humans to do it. Simultaneously, I'm looking at the greed. I'm looking at the indifference. I'm looking at the cold calculation of capitalists. In this moment, they would rather see millions of people die. And we're talking about millions. We are talking about, because we're not just talking about the people who are going to be the most adversely affected by this virus. We're talking about our entire healthcare system collapsing. We're talking about losing some of our best doctors all across the country. We're also talking about people who need ordinary care and not being able to get ordinary care. You know how many people are going to start dying from heart attacks? Don't get me wrong, people die from heart attacks all the time, but I'm talking about like people with chest pains who are not going to go to the emergency room because the emergency room is too inundated with people who are dying from COVID-19. It is a snowballing effect. And yet we are sitting in the midst of the most coldly calculated example of capitalist indifference, staring at us saying, we don't really care how many of you are going to die. We need you to go out and work. So because of the absurdity of it all, I have to pause and occasionally just laugh at stuff that probably isn't funny to you, but it's funny to me. It is, man. But did any of us really think that we would be living in a time that if we survive as a species, world history will look back and say, wow, do you remember the pandemic of 2020? Or did you study about the pandemic in 2020? Kids, take your seat, kids. In 2020, the United States, that kind of thing. Like we are really in one of those moments. And what we decide, I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking out loud. I normally have a much more coherent flow of thoughts, but here's where it's not funny, and it's absolutely, it's not demoralizing, but let me explain it to you and you can see my dilemma. I want so very desperately to have an inspirational tone through this period because of how sad this period is and getting ready to be. I know that one of the things that we're going to need the most is encouragement to make it through the next several months. We're going to need that more than anything else. I think a critical component in our survival is going to be for us to love each other, to take care of each other, to speak positive affirmations, all those good things, just because of how grim the reality is going to be around us. But what makes me a little bit depressed is the fact that this government, particularly the Trump administration and the capitalists, the right wing of this country, are going to push me and push us into something that we have no choice but to become, which is a full-blown resistance. No, strike that word. They've ruined that word. A full-blown rebellion against the capitalist class in this country because they are trying to get us killed for their profit margins. Now, here's your choice. This is your real choice. You could either write us some checks and let us stay home and make sure that all of our bills are taken care of and make sure that you have food delivered to us so that we can just press the pause button on American capitalism and we'll pick it back up once we have a vaccine and we all are like, we'll be better for it. We would have lost money. People would have died, but we would not have imploded. That's door number one. That's behind door number one. Behind door number two is you trying to insist that we go out to work. And I'm telling you, that's not going to end the way you think it's going to end because it can't, because you're backing up us against the wall. See, I want to be the inspirational chap that helps us make it through this by just telling everybody that we love you. You're special. You're going to be okay. Just hang in there. I know this is month number 3, but it's a difficult time, but you know what? We have each other. But if you tell us that we have to go out here and die for your profit margins, There's an entirely different side to every single person who has been calm and measured. Those who have been milquetoast liberals and progressives. Those of us who have been wine moms. Those of us who have been brunch buddies. Those people who would love to they would rather just get fabulous and go to a happy hour. You're going to find that if you put us between capitalism and death, if that's the choice that you're going to make us pick, then guess what's going to die? It ain't going to be us, boo-boo. Where the hell did that come from, boo-boo? It's going to be capitalism. It's not going to be us. It's going to be the system. So your best option is to just press the pause button on capitalism, open up the coffers of the government, show everybody what we've always known about this government, about our system, that money isn't real. Money isn't real. None of this is real. Jobs aren't real. What's real are our lives, our ability to live and interact with one another. That's the realest thing. Money isn't real. Your wealth isn't real. Your wealth is just a symbol of how much you have hoarded and how much you want to be able to control the system. And I swear to God, if you make this a choice between death and your money, we're coming for your money. We're coming for your system. We will tear this thing down to the ground because you've given us no other option. It's like this thing I was involved with. There was this thing that I got involved with that I'm going to be extremely vague about. But it was a really cool thing that I could have been involved with for a very long time. But they pushed me up against the wall. They pushed me and I had no option. It was either sacrifice my integrity to be a part of this or just burn the whole thing down. Well, when you push people in the corner and they have no choice and they are up against a wall, like you put them between a rock and a hard place, we're going to do what is in the best interest for our lives. And for me at the time, it was my integrity. I was not going to participate in something that was going to challenge my integrity. Similarly, if you make millions of Americans have to choose between this existing economic system and death, it's not going to be us that dies. It's going to be this system. Try us. Go around and find out. Oh, man, because here's the thing, man. Conservatives, holy crap, conservatives, you have lost your minds. I'm getting ready to read to you a brief article from Richmond.com, Richmond, Virginia. The headline reads, thousands of Liberty University students expected to return to campus amid coronavirus outbreak. So what's getting ready to happen? I'm going to read you the article, but there's about to be a hell of a natural selection that takes place. I don't want to see anybody die. I want to start off there. I want to say that you're not going to find a more compassionate person than me, that I grieve at the cessation of life, particularly because it's the cessation of consciousness. So I don't say what I'm getting ready to say with any pleasure. But these dumbass conservatives are about to kill themselves off. I'm sorry. Okay, let me read the article. Here we go. Lynchburg, Virginia. As the coronavirus threatens to spread across the Lynchburg region, Liberty University officials are preparing to welcome back up to 5,000 students from spring break this week. Defying a national trend of campus closures, President Jerry Falwell Jr., remember that name, invited students to return to residence halls and has directed faculty members to continue to report to campus even as most classes move online. In an interview Sunday night, Falwell said somewhere between several hundred to more than 5,000 students are expected to live on campus dorms where they will continue coursework online rather than in classrooms. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's good that you're not going to have them in classrooms, but it's the fact that there's about to be a tremendous natural selection that occurs. Conservatives are offering themselves up on the altar of capitalism. Good on you. Good. They're offering themselves up on the altar of trying to create herd immunity when we don't even know if a person who's immune from this virus because they survived at one time, is it permanent immunity for the rest of their lives? In other words, can they get it when it comes back around next season? But they're willing to try. And, far be it for me to stop you from throwing yourself into the volcano to try to appease the capitalism gods. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, then that was natural selection, wasn't it? And I think we're also going to find, here's the thing, I've actually been praying about this really hard. Quiet as it's kept. I have been praying hard. I don't think I prayed this much in my life because I'm like, God, you got to do something. We can't seriously let all these people die. But then it dawned on me, some of the people who are going to die the most are going to be religious people who refuse to shut down their services. Religious people who are like, oh, God is greater than this virus. I agree. God is greater than this virus. God is going to protect us from this virus. I agree. God can protect us from this virus by us using common sense and following the rules of the scientists and staying our butts home. But no, they have to make a statement of faith and say, oh, God is going to do it. And here's some holy oil and you're going to die. I would rather have to argue with you. I'm going to be honest with you. I would rather have to spend the rest of my life debating the ignorance of conservatism than to see like a huge percentage of conservatives die, but I don't have any control over it. So if 50% of the current conservative movement throws themselves into the volcano to appease the gods of capitalism, well, there's just fewer people for us to argue with in the future. And again, like I stated, you can soundbite that and that's fine. But like I stated, I really do not want to see anybody die from this. But we certainly cannot stop people from expressing their extremism and their commitment to capitalism, even unto death. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, be thou faithful, even unto death. And he was talking about being faithful to God, even unto death. You fools are being faithful to capitalism, even unto death. Which means, if we use a transitive property, that means capitalism is your God. And maybe, okay, I can stop there. I'm not going to say it. I was going to say something really, really harsh, but I think I've made my point.
Start with an argument about assistance to large companies, particularly, that I've heard, and get your response to it, which is basically the opposite of what Joseph Stiglitz was saying. Was, look, in 2008, the financial industry and the real estate industry, they really did just crash themselves and then ask for a bailout. And there was a real problem of moral hazard. In this case, it's not like the companies that are suffering brought this on themselves. It's just a virus. Like, we shouldn't be thinking about it as a bailout. We shouldn't be thinking about moral hazard in the same way. What's your feeling about that?
Well, my feeling is that you cannot simply give $50 billion to the airline industry. And of course, this crisis is not their making, but you can't just give them that money to do anything they want. If we're going to bail out the airline industry, if you're going to bail out tourism, if you're going to bail out hotels, etc., what you have to do is make sure that that money is going to protect working people. And what you're seeing in the United Kingdom, in other countries, is they are saying to employers, if you retain your workers, even if you furlough them, even if they're working from home, they're going to continue to get the paycheck that the government is providing. So bottom line is, yes, I do understand that major industries, through no fault of their own, are in trouble. But our job is not to make these industries richer, not to allow them to do stock buybacks, but to protect the workers in those companies.
Yeah, thank you, Sanders, Bernie Sanders. I understand Chris Hayes. The reason he framed that question the way he did was to set it up so Bernie Sanders can knock it down. But I hated that question. The moral hazard is in how this economy has been driven for the last, forever. Because this economy has been driven. Yesterday was a phrase I kept trying to find and it escaped me, but it's just-in-time production, just-in-time management. And because the reason we operate in many industries based on a just-in-time principle, which means like you don't run an inventory. you have things delivered just in time for it to go out. Right. And it was quite impressive. Like I'm going a long way to answer something. When I was in undergrad was when just-in-time management was really just, becoming the thing, not a thing that was admirable. It was becoming the thing that you needed to be able to do in every industry. It was becoming the standard, and it was quite impressive. Like the technologies that are in the metrics, the data-driven analytics that are necessary to make sure that the shelves in your grocery store are full without having to have a huge inventory. Making sure that the trucks pull up at the exact time you need them to pull up with the exact inventory that you're missing. It was a feat of data analytics. It was magnificent. But it also it was also a component in this system that was driving nothing but profits at the expense of everything else. In this case, just-in-time management came at the expense of being prepared for a disaster, right? We had just-in-time management in play in the hospitals where they only had enough beds for the potential maximum hazards and emergencies that they could imagine us having, that the data said that we would have in any given moment. Well, hell, did the data predict COVID-19? And so now we have a situation where we've been operating based on a just-in-time principle, even in our healthcare industry, and now we don't have the inventory that we need to survive a crisis. And the reason, again, that we operated that way was because we wanted to maximize our profits. Inventory on the shelves is not maximizing profits. Inventory out the door is maximizing profits. You feel me? That's just one component. The underlying problem is this desire, this incessant need to have ever increasing profit margins quarter after quarter. You have to make more money this quarter than you made last quarter, because if you didn't, then the board of directors is going to get rid of the CEO and get in somebody who will come in and cut all the jobs that are necessary to show profit margins for the next quarter. It's a self-destructive, cannibalistic system inherently. And so the premise of the question that Chris Hayes asked is infuriating, even though I understand why he asked it, because he wanted Bernie Sanders to give that exact answer. But the problem is the moral hazard is not just in their in the excesses of their behavior, in the absurdity of their behavior, as we saw in 2008. It is the system itself. The system itself is the problem. And this is why, and we're seeing it now, because the system cannot even survive a week without us participating at full capacity. You talk about living paycheck to paycheck. Capitalism is so destructive that it could not last a week without the full participation of the people, which, going on an entirely different tangent before I end this episode and go to the patrons only episode, I want to throw this in here. If you want to understand the power of the people, understand the fact that this system is getting ready to collapse because the people cannot participate. Now, what if the people just simply chose not to participate? What if the people said, we understand our power, and until you treat us right, we are not going to participate? Well, we did not have the wherewithal to do that. But here comes coronavirus and says you have no choice but to do that. Sit your butts home or else you die. So it's a general strike by another name, but it's still a general strike. I've got so much more to talk about. Mississippi governor, he's tripping. More conservatives are preparing to die. And we're going to do a little stargazing in the Patrons episode. Patrons, I'll see you in a few minutes. Everybody else, go to patreon.com. If not, I'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.